Okay, so hi everyone. I'm Rachel, and I just thought I would share this with Zoom since it's a platform I'm comfortable with. And that way I can show you my Google Slides, but I can also just show you what I'm doing. This is for my internship with the National Parks Archive, and I'm just going to show you my entire computer screen for now. So this is for my status report too for my internship with San Jose State University. And for starters, these are the learning outcomes that I developed: archival arrangement and processing, collection management, reference and outreach, and methods and practices. And so far, we've really touched on all of them already. But what an actual day looks like in this internship starts like this. So every week, every Monday, we have lectures on our Microsoft Office Teams. Amanda's the supervisor and archivist, and so she does these lectures and on collection, scope, overview, some of the most interesting facts that I've found so far. There's 6.2 million items. It's the third biggest in the nation. 90% of it is paper. They literally describe the paper in linear feet, which just cracks me up. Museum Advisory Committee on average does 6 to 8 new collections every couple months. There are only 2 core staff members, but when I asked her about it, she said before the budget cuts, there was like 20 plus employees that reported to her on their this. So she's just drowning in paperwork and items. So that's why I think she has so many interns during the summers that help her with this. So there's things on lectures on storage, exhibits, traveling exhibits, inherited collections, field finds, natural history, archaeology, historical objects, archives, which is 90%, 95% of this specific collection, special collections, oral histories, photographs, actual facilities where things are housed, finding aids, processing, and procedures. And I hadn't even thought about the fact that like they have some really big objects from history. So it's like massively heavy things like the size of a truck. And I hadn't even thought about trying to store some of those items. So I thought that was actually really interesting. So what am I actually spending my time as an intern doing? And so far, it's been on these 3 things: transcription, oral history, and cataloging. The transcription project, you take an old PDF pictures of these handwritten letters, you transcribe them, you move them into a peer-reviewed folder, the peer review others, and then peer review is going to look at them and then they move them into another folder. Oral history, you listen to the recordings, you audit the original transcripts that have already been done, you add formatting, you create and format a finding aid, and then you move to a different folder for final review. And then cataloging, there is initial review of the accession folder. You're creating an ICMS cataloging worksheet so that the archivist can actually put it into their ICMS that we don't have access to. You're creating a finding aid using a template and controlled vocabulary and the like. So we start with the transcription project. Over here, you can see we use Microsoft Teams, which has a lot of pros and cons. I like that it gives you these like conversational pieces here. This is where we do our meetings through. It's like Zoom, but it's all through Microsoft. So it's easy and it's combined. So you go up to files here, and then we would go to this one, the transcription project. And you go to files, and then you go to documents for transcribing. And I'll show you one that I really struggled with. So this is one, so you can see I'm the one who last looked at it. So it starts with just an envelope, and I was like, oh, cool, I can do this. And then I get down and I'm looking at this and I was just like, oh no, this isn't something I want to do. And it just goes on and on and on. And I'm not going to lie. Some of the other interns have talked about how fun they enjoy like doing this project and how they feel like it's really cool, but seeing to someone else's world. And I never even get to that part because I find it mind-numbingly terrible to try to figure out what these words mean and say. So what you're doing is you're transcribing them into a nice, beautiful PDF. So we'll look at a PDF version, and it's got these lovely, everything's documented, which I do love the organizational structure. So you have like the number, the box, the folder number, you have what it is. This one's a memorandum, the date of the document. And then here you have like, I transcribed it on this date, and then someone will review it and they'll put their name in here. And I do like that, similar to coding, you have the end of it and the top of it. So like if it's a letterhead, you tell them it's a letterhead in parentheses, these like brackets, And then at the end, you do it just like encoding, which I thought was kind of fun. So that you do get to actually tell them if there's, watermarks on it, or if there's different stamps or things. So then you're actually transcribing it. And when you're done, it goes into one folder, and then it goes into this one. So it's in the peer reviewed folder. And then after someone edits it, so the other reason she gave us this one first is because she said, if we need a lot of hours, this is something there's always time to do. You go in and you edit other people's, you're going to write over here, like, so see some of these have said like, we edited them, or these have only been transcribed. So you go in, someone else will edit it, then you'll change it over here so that everybody knows what it is, you're labeling it, and then you're going to move it to one of the appropriate files for final review by Amanda. So that is the transcription project. It has been my least favorite, but what we have spent the most time on so far. And it makes me really understand why some people are definitely like specialists in this, because it was something that I don't feel strongly about at all. So after this, we had the oral histories project, which so far has been my favorite. So the oral history project is basically, we each get our own file, which somehow I felt like less pressure since I knew it was mine. So my first one was oral Henry Roberts, who claimed to be a Native American from this area, from up in San Francisco. And so you get these audio files, and then you actually create a finding aid. And so this is, I've audited it, and then I created the finding aid. And so then you've got the part description, you've got this history, the scope of the collection. You have this like the history of oral history with the National Recreation Area. But all of this was built in. So like we didn't have to create a lot of this from scratch. Basically, they're all templates that we get to create from. And then we create this part, we add in all of the information for this specific one. So, who was the interviewer, the date it was done. This guy was a botanist and an agronomist, and he had a lot of history, so it was very interesting. Then we create index words that they'll look for, and then we actually write down, so we create like the timestamps for the sides of the tapes, what they actually, and what they were talking about. And then we format and edit the transcripts into this final document. They were originally on a different document, and we take out the timestamps and we format it. And if we know the speaker, we put them in here. Unfortunately, this one had 4 different interviewers who all had male voices. So I couldn't figure out which one was which. So Amanda said to just leave it as speaker 2, 3, and 4. So that's that. So when it's all done, you write all done on it. And then she's giving me a second one because it's of all the things. So this is my new one that I get to do. So yeah, so that's oral histories. And by far I've found it the most interesting, which was a surprise to me. I didn't even think I'd like oral histories. So that was a new one. And then we have cataloging, which I come from a photography background. So I thought I would really like this, but this is again, what it showed me that I can really like something without wanting to have to do the detail work on it. So the cataloging folder, we pick one of these folders. So this is the one that I had picked, and it comes with these different PDFs in it. So this is what we've been currently working on, and let's see if I can, yes. Rotate them so you can see them. So basically this one is cataloging these 8 images from Fort Mason. They were almost all either created for or by a Thomas Wilson pen. And she said it's very rare to have this kind of extreme writing on the back. So she wanted to make sure that I had that part cataloged and all the information that goes with it. So what we did was we're creating another finding aid. This one is again a template, and then we add in information and controlled vocabulary, who it was, inclusive dates, bulk dates, the numbers. She had a very interesting way of getting us a cataloging number. We all thought the Ascension number was the cataloging number, and it is not. So that is was an interesting thing to have to go and figure that out. Just certain little tiny logistics that you'd be like, wait, what? I don't even understand what it is, processing information, and then the item list. And originally, because I tend to give too much information, I had been too concise. And so the feedback I got from her was, we do want more detail on these specifically, so that if someone with a specific name is looking for something, so if they have the name written on the back, so then I actually transcribed some of the names and the things that were on these different photographs. So that's the cataloging project. And let's see if I can show. So in the cataloging, the way that we had to do the numbers, we had an ascension number in one of the other documents. So we had to come in here, we had to write down what it was. We had to pick a new GOGA number and then put it in. And I was very confused by it at first, but once I did it once, it was no big deal. But there's just like little details like that while I was going through them, I was like, wait, what? So, and then I've done a ton of peer review as a way to make sure that I was staying up on my hours and to see what everybody else has been doing. So in the transcription project, you just go through, you find ones that somebody else has done, and then you edit them. And that I found easier, at least, than actually transcribing them myself. So what have I learned so far? I learned that you can really be passionate about a subject matter, but not want to be the person doing the detail-oriented work. I really liked when Amanda said, it doesn't matter what people do with the work when they come in. If they want to photograph via a photograph, or if they want information about Fort Mason, your job is to make sure that they can find what they are looking for. And I really liked that kind of objective view of like, your job is to make these items findable. It doesn't matter what the person's doing with them. I really liked that. I have learned that I am definitely not a transcriber, that I like the organizational side of it. I like seeing how things are organized and put together, but I am not as much of a data entry person. I've talked to some of the other interns, seem to find it peaceful and relaxing or meditative. And I am more of a people person than I thought I was. So I want more dialogue. I want more interaction. And ironically, I thought that I would have a more micromanager in Amanda. I thought she would be a little bit more hands-on. And ironically, usually I don't like micromanaging, but I think because I have never done this kind of thing ever before, I don't come from an archives background at all, I have been nervous to do certain things that I didn't think I would be nervous about. And I keep looking for more feedback. And she's like, you're doing fine. It's all fine. You're good. And it's just an interesting, a different vibe. But Amanda's very knowledgeable and she's so kind. And yeah, there's just a lot of information, but just the more that I learn about this specific organization, it sounds like they get a lot of donations. They have a lot of things coming in, but it just ends up being very overwhelming if you don't have a full staff to actually catalog these things and organize them and, create the exhibits or the traveling exhibits. I don't know how she does it, to be quite honest. So what's next? We're doing a metadata project, and then I'm going to do another oral history project. And then I will show you how. This is how I've been documenting my hours. So these are the 4 learning outcomes. And if there's one specifically that I thought I worked on, I copy and pasted it here, along with what specifically I was actually doing for those hours and then the dates that I did them. And then Amanda has a column over here if she wanted to leave notes, but she doesn't leave any notes. And yeah, so I'm halfway done basically at this point. And it's going really good, but I have definitely learned that I am more of a people person than I thought I was. I do like downtime. I am an introvert kind of person, but I'm a verbal processor, and this kind of work I feel like is made for certain kind of personalities, and I don't know if it's for me. I'm pretty sure it's not for me, but I like it. I like learning what I'm learning. I think the oral history project I found really interesting, mainly because I like agronomy and I like botany. And so the subject matter he was talking about, that they were talking about meat raising industry for cattle versus elk, and different traditions and things that I actually found really interesting on a topical level. But in general, there you go. That is a day in the life of this internship with the National Parks Archive. I definitely feel like Amanda mentioned that most people do better if they do this kind of thing for like 6 months. And I definitely feel like, yeah, I'm only a month in, and I'm just starting to understand and get a better vibe and a feel for like the transcription project. And I honestly feel like if I had 6 months, I could probably become a much smoother, faster, more efficient worker in this work. But because I'm just learning about it and I'm so new, I definitely feel like I'm slow and I'm not as fast as I would like to be, or as efficient as I would like to be. And so having it be only a summer internship feels almost sad, because I feel like I would, if it was another semester long, I could really have a better understanding of the work and really dive into actually more of it. Because I feel like once you've done a couple finding aids and once you've done a couple transcriptions and a couple of these different projects, I feel like we actually get a lot faster. But yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for someone like myself who has never ever gotten a chance to work in archives or in cataloging, or has never done anything like this. I think it's definitely a great opportunity. So there we go.